Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay.
So this means that one needs to be a vessel that is capable to receive all the goods of this world without corrupting Torah. Good morning, and everybody. We're at Parshat Tavo, and before we jump in, I just want to mention, for those of you who want to find the text in of the Sfat Emet in Hebrew, I'm going to paste at the end of this video instructions about how to find that on sefaria.org. I also want to mention that the text in the Chumash that the Sfat Emet is referring to Deuteronomy, as we said, Parashat Tavo. It's in chapter, I have to scroll up here, 28, verse, I believe, 47. And it says, תחת אשר לא עבדת את Adonai Elohecha b'simcha u'b'tuv levav merav kol, that all those curses that are mentioned here in this parsha are for the reason that you have not worshipped God with joy and with a good heart while you had everything.
This week's parsha, we have one of the two places in the Torah where we are met with very extreme consequences of not following the directives of the Torah. Of course, nothing bad emanates from heaven. So, according to the Zohar, the Kabbalists, all these 98 curses that are mentioned in this week's Torah portion can be interpreted in positive ways. But on its surface, we're talking about basically consequences for our actions and inactions. The most amazing thing, and it's one of the most amazing verses in the Torah, after outlining some of horrific consequences, the verse you just read, then all of a sudden it says, why did this all happen to you? Not because you didn't do what you were supposed to do, or you did stuff you weren't supposed to do. It's because you did what you were supposed to do, but you weren't happy doing it. And you had everything, you had everything you needed materially, right? Like today, basically
we can't complain. Yeah.
Nobody really in the world. You got to go. This in the last 20, 30 years, 40 years. The levels of poverty, all that. Basically, everybody has what they need at the basic level. And you had everything. I gave you everything, and you didn't do it in a joyful way. You did it complaining, kvetching, But if you would read some of these curses, you would, wow, this doesn't really, the punishment doesn't fit the crime, so to speak.
That's right.
So there's a lot to say. Right, so there's a lot to say about it. We have a lot to say about it, and the Sfas Emes today is going to say what he wants to say about it.
בפסוק, תחת אשר לא עבדת את השם בשמחה וכולי, יש ללמוד מזה. Okay, so let me translate again. In the verse that all these afflictions came upon you because you have not worshipped Hashem, your God, with joy and with good heart while you had everything, and so on and so forth. So the Sfat Emet says, "Yesh lilmod mizeh de ma shekatuv sham." He says we need to learn from what says in the Gemara, במידה טובה, שבני ישראל עובדים להשם יתברך בגלות, בשמחה, אף על פי שהם בחוסר כל, מזה יבוא הגאולה בעזרת השם יתברך. So we learn from this Gemara. Eli, you want to say something about the Gemara, how that is instructive here?
Yeah, so it says, Mikol Shekain, how much more so? If this is going to happen because of X, if you do the opposite of X, so the opposite of X should occur. But there's a famous Gemara, the Talmud has an adage where it says that it's not an equal mathematical equation.
Yeah, I understood, yeah.
If it's a greater than. So if you don't do X, Y will occur, but if you do X under the opposite circumstances, then greater than Y will occur. In other words, the reward for doing what you're supposed to do in the circumstances which are difficult for you, the reward will be much greater,
right, than the punishment for not doing it. Right. That's right.
Right.
So when the people of Israel are worshiping the Holy and Blessed Be in the diaspora with joy, b'simcha, af al pi she'em b'choser kol, even though they have nothing, from that redemption will come.
Right. So living in Israel in the temple times, we had everything spiritually, materially. Now we have nothing. We have physically, materially, but spiritually we are barren, so to speak. You look around. It takes 2 seconds and you realize we have nothing. Nothing. You got to dig deep for anything spiritual in this world. But if we serve God with joy, even under these harsh spiritual circumstances,
the ultimate
for
reward,
sure that will result in the geula, in a spiritual redemption.
Yeah. And it's intuitive. There's something beautiful about that. This is not math. This is God's. Actually, it's kabbalistically. It's consistent with the idea that God really wants to give and bestow, etc. So, ולכן נכתב סיבת הגלות. And that's why it's written the cause for exile, so we can learn how to repair this. So what's the fact that we weren't worshiping God with joy. So through being in the opposite conditions, which is exile, to bring us to strengthen our ability to worship God with joyfulness, even when we are in difficult conditions. באמת היה רצון המקום ברוך הוא וברוך שמו שנעבוד לפניו מתוך הרוב כל. And truly, it was God's will, and you could say, may he be blessed and may his name be blessed. Originally, you could say, שנעבוד לפניו מתוך הרוב כל, that we would worship God, we would serve God from conditions of prosperity, of thriving, like you said before, that we had in the land of Israel. ראית שיש ניסיון בבחינת העושר ויש בבחינת עניות. And it's brought that there is a nisayon, meaning a testing, where God tests us, that happens under conditions of thriving. ויש בבחינת עניות, and there is the testing that happens under conditions of poverty, of scarcity. And the test, the spiritual testing under conditions of everything provided, of thriving, is much greater than under the conditions of poverty.
Right. Yeah, this is a famous, this is actually not from the Talmud, not from the Medrash, the Mishnah. This is a very recent statement, actually, but it became very famous about 150 years ago. Reb Mechel Epstein, the Baal Aruch HaShulchan, a very famous halachic, a book of Jewish laws that people study, a kind of like a summary of Jewish laws by the Aruch HaShulchan. Anyway, he was a rabbi and he gave sermons, and in one of his sermons he said this. When he passed away, they wrote his sermons down in a book, and this little phrase that he said in one of his sermons caught on, and it's used by rabbis a lot.
It's like
a classic. It's a classic line.
You think it's from the Pirkei Avot, but
amazing, and it's amazing that he had the zechut to say this. That the test, and we see it today in America. American rabbis can use this a lot. It's very apropos that people have a couple of houses, a couple of cars, and a this and a that. But where are they holding internally, spiritually? They're holding by poverty, extreme poverty.
Right.
So that's why he's saying sometimes and maybe 150 years ago in Eastern Europe, people didn't know what he was talking about. People didn't have a pot to spit in, as they say, their tobacco. So what's he talking about? Now we know what he's talking about. Right.
And the proof for that is that we could not pass the test of thriving, of richness before exile. Right. But from these conditions of poverty or spiritual poverty, may the redemption come soon in our day. There's a Sfat Emet. So, and that's also, we know Yemei Mashiach or Chevlei Mashiach. We know that before the end of days, things will be worse. It's going to get worse before it gets better, as they say.
Right. This is the Hasidic concept he's alluding to, spoken about a lot in Sefer Tanya, called Yirida Litzorech Aliyah.
Right. Yep.
And not time to go into that psychological idea of having to be brought down very low to reach the greatest heights, but that's what he's talking about on a communal and national level.
Right. Lahavdil of the lot, to draw a complete distinction between the Tanya and my grandfather. He used to say, if it doesn't kill you, it's going to make you better.
There you go.
All right, so we continue. וזה כמו שנאמר במשנה, מקיים התורה מעוני, סופו לקיימה מעושר. ומבטלה מעושר, סופו לבטלה מעוני. So, and as it is written in the Mishnah, it's in Pirkei Avot, the one who fulfills Torah from a place of poverty is destined in the end to fulfill it from a place of richness, and one who avoids Torah from a place of richness is destined in the end to avoid Torah also from a place of poverty.
Right. This is again a beautiful Hasidic interpretation of a pasuk which no one would ever come up with. The simple meaning of this text, according to Rabbi Ovadia of Bartanura, the premier commentator on the Mishnayos, says that if you're running around busy all day trying to make a living, and you take a few minutes out of your busy day making a living to learn to open up a book, a holy book for a few minutes, then you'll be blessed with the ability to open up the book for more of the day.
That's right.
But if you have the time, you're investing in stocks and you don't need to run around, and you don't use that time, but instead you're searching the Facebook page all day, scrolling, and you could have been opening the holy book and learning a little bit, and you didn't do that, then you're going to go and see your stocks went down. That's what the simple text. So simple interpretation. What he's saying is, according to everything, he's using it as a proof text for what he's saying here. That if we can serve God joyfully in Gullus, then the end will be be able to serve God with spiritual richness.
That's right. So ושניהם נתקיים בנו כי על ידי שלא עבדנו בשמחה וכו'. And both of these conditions have been fulfilled with us because we have not. That's the idea. That's a proof text. It says that this is exactly what happened. Right?
Right.
ומכל מקום מתקיים גם הסיפא, שעל ידי שמתחזקים בגלות, לקיים התורה, סופנו לקיימה באושר. So, but in any case, the seif at the end.
The Mishnah shows that we have the big bracha coming.
Right, that this is going to happen too. That through becoming stronger in Torah in exile, we will end up being fulfilling Torah out of a place of thriving, which is in Eretz Israel in end of days.
Right. Now here comes Reb Ruven. You're about to say highlight this, because this is the key to the entire piece coming up, the reinterpretation of our original pasuk from the Holy Arizal.
And it's brought in the name of the Holy Ari, Rabbi Isaac Luria, the famous Kabbalist. Piresh Mirov, he interpreted Mirov Kol, that the word in the pasuk, the end of the pasuk that says that we had everything, and we did not worship God with joy. Liot sameach b'avodat Hashem yitbarach means to be happy in our worship of service of the Holy One. Yoter mikol minei tov shebaolam, that more than all the good, the material goods that are in the world, ayan sham.
Yeah, so divrei pi chachamim chen, that's a phrase that people use when they hear something really awesome.
I see.
But what the Arizal, he again, like you said a few moments ago, the Arizal flips it on its head. We thought it meant simply because you didn't serve God, Meirov, Kol, when you had everything, now you lost everything. He's saying no, it's because you didn't serve God, Meirov, Kol, more than you didn't sense joyfulness from your praying, from your fulfillment of mitzvot, more than you got a geschmack, a joyfulness out of driving your fancy BMW.
That's right.
So I gave you everything because I wanted I wanted you to have material wealth and material security, because within that freed you up theoretically to serve me and to do your mitzvahs. And now you can run around doing mitzvahs, and now you can take more time to open up a book. But you didn't do it. So you, Meirov Kol, I gave you everything, but you were still supposed to serve me. But instead of serving me, you were serving the Rov Kol.
Yep.
Wow.
Like you got caught. It's kind of like getting caught up in the means instead of being focused on the end, something like that. So turning the means to the end or something like that. So, so that's Ari. Yeah, so he's basically saying, how come you didn't prioritize the pleasure of being connected to the Holy One, to the Creator, right? לפי דברינו הנ"ל נאמר כי זה עצמו העצה להישאר גם במדרגת העושר. And according to what we said above, it said that this itself is the advice, right? The wise advice to remain in a place of richness.
Right, to get it back.
That's right. אם החשק והרצון יותר בעבודת השם יתברך מכל הרוב טוב שיש לו, if the desire and the will is greater with regard to the service of God, more than all the richness that one has. Right,
so what but this pasuk, we started the whole lesson by saying, what's going on in this pasuk? How does it match? Simcha, I didn't do it joyfully, so all this. So then we went through the process. We learned what it really means, and what the Sfasemis is saying here, and he said it a little before, the tikkun, the reason it's here is to give us a hint. It's to tell us how to fix everything. It's so simple. Well, if it was simple, we would have done it already. But the instructions are right here. How to fix everything up. So, now I know. Okay, so let me put a little bit more of joy in my service,
Right.
in my spiritual service. Let me pay it a little bit more attention, and do it with a smile.
Right. I think it's also a reorienting of one's focus and one's priorities. Kind of remembering because there's a forgetfulness. I mean, it's easy to, it reminds me of. I saw this many years ago, and it's sort of like it felt like a piece of Torah. I saw this murder mystery, and on TV, and they were looking for the body, or something like that, or they were looking for. So they got a clue that they had to dig in the ground, and they were looking for, there was some kind of treasure that they had to find, some kind of important evidence they had to find. So they dug in the ground and they found the body, but they couldn't find the evidence because the evidence was buried deeper underneath the body. So once they found the body, nobody thought to dig even deeper. And I always remember that, and I think it's a metaphor for life. It's like we hit the first thing we want, which is our Mercedes or our Ferrari, right? But we forget that that's not all we want. We want to dig deeper. The real treasure is even deeper.
Yeah, good.
And I never forgot that. It just felt like such a deep Torah through trivial murder mystery. So, anyways, I think that's what he's talking about. It's like I gave you everything, and you think that's it. You forgot to go the next step.
Right.
Where was I? וזה עניין השבח תורה וגדולה
במקום אחד.
במקום אחד.
Okay.
And this is the matter of having both Torah and fame and richness together at the same time, which you had mentioned to me that's the case of Rabbi Judah the Prince, who was both the Gadol in Torah and also the chief, the president of the Jewish community at the time in the 2nd century.
Right. He was very rich, and it was unusual. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally rich. He was extremely rich.
Yep.
And the Talmud points out that this is unusual to find somewhat like a really successful businessman, a rich person who's still a sage. And he, of course, is the compiler of the Mishnayos. So he's one of the most famous sages of all time.
That's right.
And so to see Torah and Gedula here, meaning greatness of status, in one guy is extremely rare.
Right.
But that's what so the Sfas Emes is using it as an analogy for the Jewish people. That's what we're aiming for.
Right. This is what the whole teaching is talking about the possibility that you would have both. It's a possibility that we apparently missed, and that's why the Galut, came to rectify that. פירוש שצריך להיות כלי שיוכל לקבל טובת עולם הזה ולא לפשוע בתורה על ידי זה. So this means that one needs to be a vessel that is capable to receive all the goods of this world without corrupting Torah. Thank you for learning with us here today, and I want to wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, riches both internally and externally, and obviously good preparations for the high holidays coming up. If you liked this video, please click the like, and if you haven't subscribed to the Hebrew Learning Circle's channel, please do. We would love to have you with us. Doesn't cost you anything, but it's meaningful to us.
It seems hard to believe, but another Jewish year has come and gone. This Saturday night at around midnight begins the high holiday season with the slichas, the slichot, the additional prayers that we say starting about a week or so before we get up in the middle of the night. Basically, we're starting the season of serious spiritual introspection, and so we can all be blessed that it'll be a successful slichus and the high holiday season for all of us. And so this is a famous little tune from Reb Shlomo based on some of the words from the slichot. Hanisha Mahala Behagu Pe'ala Chusa Amala Hanisha Mahala Behagu Behala Chusa Amala Ay 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 ay
We will see you next Wednesday at 9 o'clock. If you're interested in actually joining the lesson, you can join us through meetup.com. The meetup is called Spiritual Torah Study Shalom for now. So here we go. If you go to sefaria.org to the home page, then you're going to scroll down where it says Browse the Library until you find the section that is called Chassidut, and you click on it. In Chassidut, you'll browse down again, or scroll down again till the subsection that is called, I believe, Other Chassidut Works. And that's where Other Chassidut Works. There it is. Then you keep scrolling down until you find the Sifat Emet, and it is right there in alphabetical order. You open up the Sifat Emet, you scroll down again in the table of contents to the book of Deuteronomy, and once you get to the book of Deuteronomy, you look for Tavo. You click on it, and then you click on section 13. When you're in section 13, you'll scroll down to the paragraph that's numbered. It's the third paragraph, but it's numbered as 4. Right here, b'pasuk tachat asher lo avadeta v'chulei, and that is where we are today.